Have you ever pondered what occurs when a strong businesswoman recognizes that her success was built on the sacrifices of those who supported her? Today, we present a story that will astonish you, challenge your perspectives, and perhaps encourage you to reevaluate your own views on success, justice, and the individuals who make it possible. Hello, everyone. Enjoy these relaxing moments as you watch the journey of Emma Williams, a woman who seemingly had it all but unearthed something that transformed her forever. The crucial question remains, will she manage to set things right? Where are you tuning in from? Please share in the comments below. Welcome, everyone. Today, I've got a story that will resonate with your heart, provoke thought, and hopefully inspire you toward change. This is the tale of Emma Williams, a thriving businesswoman in New York whose life is about to face upheaval. Emma constructed her empire from the ground up, fueled by determination and the belief that hard work always pays off. However, soon you'll discover that everything is not as it appears. Emma had always prided herself on being a paragon of efficiency. Her company, situated in the vibrant streets of New York, epitomized success. Every inch of her office radiated discipline. Sleek, modern, minimalist. There was no space for sentimentality or softness. She forged this empire through long nights, sleepless hours, and an unwavering belief that the hardest workers would be rewarded. For years, her approach worked. Her employees toiled endlessly, kept their heads down, and delivered results. As her business expanded, so did her reputation. Emma commanded respect and even fear from some. Her philosophy was clear: work hard and ascend, fail to perform and you're out. It was a ruthless world, but for Emma, it was the only way. Lately, however, something began to feel off. Despite high pay and a demanding culture, her employees were not as productive as before. There were fewer smiles in the office, fewer faces willing to endure the extended hours. Emma had always regarded herself as a fair employer, but she could no longer overlook the increasing layoffs and the depleted morale within the building. Her company, once a beacon of success, was starting to seem hollow. One employee who caught Emma's eye was John Miller, a man who seemed to fit her criteria perfectly. Hardworking, never complaining, often pulling double shifts. He embodied the kind of employee Emma valued: silent, diligent, dependable. Yet something about John still troubled her. Despite his diligence, he didn't thrive like others. He remained unnoticed, working harder than ever but failing to advance. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Emma sat at her desk overlooking the streets of New York, her mind brimming with thoughts. She caught a glimpse of John as he packed up and quietly exited the building, as he did every night. But tonight, something felt different. He wasn't heading home right away. Almost instinctively, Emma grabbed her coat and decided to follow him. She couldn't explain why, but an inner urge compelled her to learn more. She trailed him from a distance, keeping her car behind his as they departed from the busy streets of New York and ventured into quieter neighborhoods. The city lights flickered in her rearview mirror as they moved away from the brightness of the city center. Eventually, John turned onto a narrow street leading to an old, weathered building in Brooklyn, a stark contrast to the luxury of Manhattan where Emma's office was situated. This area seemed forgotten by time, with small rundown houses, some barely standing, others marked by graffiti. Emma parked her car a few blocks away and walked the rest of the way, trying to maintain a low profile. She followed John up a creaky set of stairs to an apartment that appeared to have gone decades without renovation. From her vantage point, Emma could see through the window. Inside, two young children waited eagerly by the door. Their eyes illuminated as John entered with a small bag of food in hand, desperately hungry for the meager meal he had brought. Emma's heart sank as she observed John, the exemplary employee, living a life she had never imagined for him. He wasn't in a sleek apartment or dining at the finest restaurants. Instead, he was trapped in poverty, struggling to provide for his children. The kids eagerly grabbed the food, consuming it as if it were their first meal in days. One of the children, a young girl, looked up at John and asked softly, "Daddy, will you be here tomorrow for breakfast?" John hesitated, his face softening as he managed a forced smile. "Of course, sweetheart, I'll be here." but Emma caught a glimmer of doubt in his eyes. He wasn't certain he could uphold his promise. Sitting in her car, Emma struggled to breathe, gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white. She had built her company on the belief that the hardest workers deserved rewards, yet here was John, a man working harder than anyone she knew, struggling to get by. His children were hungry, living in a dilapidated apartment, and she had failed to see this. So focused on efficiency and pushing her employees to their limits, she had overlooked the human side of their lives. "How did I miss this?" Emma whispered to herself, her voice trembling. She had always thought of herself as a fair employer, firmly believing that hard work leads to success. Yet now, she found herself questioning everything. Was it possible that in her pursuit of productivity, she had neglected the needs of those who helped her build her empire? As Emma sat in her car, the city lights twinkling in the distance, she realized that everything she thought she knew about success in business was fundamentally flawed. Focusing solely on the numbers and bottom line, she had forgotten the most important aspect: the people. John Miller, a man who had given everything for her company, was merely surviving, and it was her fault. That night, she drove home with a racing mind filled with thoughts of change. The future looked uncertain, but one truth was clear: she could no longer ignore the truth. She needed to take action for John, for his children, and for all the other undervalued employees who had been overlooked. Emma's night was long. She couldn't let go of the vision of John Miller in that cramped, dimly lit apartment with his children, his weary eyes filled with doubt. How had she been so blind? She had always prided herself on being a fair leader. Yet now, she saw that her narrow focus on efficiency and productivity had blinded her to her employees' true struggles. She had constructed her empire on the notion that hard work always resulted in reward, but John, who had labored tirelessly, had nothing to show for it except exhaustion and heartache. As Emma lay in bed that night, her mind raced with thoughts of change. She knew she had to alter her approach. She couldn't continue managing her company as she had been. For years, she had been focused on the financial aspects, the numbers, margins, profits, and had lost sight of the people who made it all possible. John was not merely a cog in the wheel. He was a father, a man fighting to provide for his family. And she had ignored that. The following morning, Emma awakened with a heavy heart. She could no longer remain passive. She needed to grasp what her employees were facing and gain insight into their lives outside of work, to see things from their perspective. This would require a drastic, unprecedented step. Rather than spending her day in her luxurious Manhattan office making decisions from behind her desk, she drove to Brooklyn, the very neighborhood that had taken her by surprise. Upon arrival, she parked her car and, for the first time in years, strolled through the streets, attempting to understand the reality facing her employees. This area was nothing like the upscale, bustling streets of Manhattan. Brooklyn was raw and real. The buildings were old, some desperately in need of repair and decorated with graffiti. Emma observed the little things: tired expressions on people's faces, the desperate glances exchanged between neighbors. This was not the world she knew. She was accustomed to luxury, polished boardrooms, and glamorous dinners, but Brooklyn unveiled a different reality. Emma had always thought she understood the essence of hard work, yet she realized she had never truly witnessed it. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, snapping her from her thoughts. It was a message from John Miller, asking if they could meet for lunch. The message was brief, nearly too polite. John was oblivious to the fact that their conversation would soon alter everything. Emma made her way to a small cafe in Brooklyn, an unassuming spot that blended into the corner of the street, easily overlooked by most. It wasn't fancy, but it held a certain charm. Arriving early, she nervously tapped her fingers on the table, uncertain of how to initiate the conversation with John, who entered shortly after, his stride steady, embodying the devoted worker. But this time, Emma viewed him differently. "John, thank you for meeting with me," Emma said, offering a small smile. She felt nervous but concealed it, having learned so much. "Of course, Miss Williams," he replied, settling across from her. His smile was polite, but in his eyes, she sensed uncertainty about what to expect. A moment of silence ensued. as they had never engaged like this outside the office. After a long pause, Emma gathered her courage to share her truth. "John, I've been reflecting on your situation." She hesitated but pushed forward. I didn't realize what you were experiencing." John's face hardened briefly but then softened. "You don't need to worry about me, Miss Williams. I'm simply doing what I must for my family. I know I'm not the only one having a tough time." Emma shook her head. Her heart weighed down. "No, John, you're right. You're not the only one. That's precisely why I'm here. I've been so fixated on our company's success that I've overlooked what truly matters. I've overlooked the people. And I want to change that." John gazed at her in disbelief. "You want to change what?" he asked, his tone laced with skepticism. "I want to ensure that you and everyone else like you are treated fairly, that those who work tirelessly for this company don't have to suffer. You shouldn't have to choose between your family and your job." For the first time, John looked vulnerable. His eyes softened, his voice cracked. "I don't know how much longer I can manage this, Miss Williams. I'm barely hanging on. I just want to do right by my kids. They deserve better than this." Emma felt a lump form in her throat. The realization struck her hard. The truth lay bare before her. She had become so immersed in her business success that she had forgotten the people who made it all possible. "I'm going to fix this, John," she asserted firmly. "I will ensure no one has to endure this, not on my watch." John remained silent for a long moment, and for the first time in a long while, Emma felt she was truly listening. This wasn't merely a business issue, it was about people, dignity, and justice. She had to act according to what was right, but what would that mean for her company's future? Would her employees believe in her commitment? As Emma sat there contemplating the conversation, she understood the magnitude of the tasks ahead. Uncertain of the changes to come or how they would impact her business, she knew one truth. There was no returning to how things had been. Then came the looming question. Could she genuinely drive a transformation and change the culture of her company to offer individuals like John a chance for a better life? What do you think, friends? Do you believe Emma Williams can turn things around, or will she falter? Stay tuned as the next chapter unveils what happens next, and trust me, it's going to be a surprise. The following few days blurred for Emma Williams, consumed with thoughts of her lunch with John Miller. His words resounded within her. "I just want to do right by my kids." Emma realized how much she had taken for granted. She had established her empire, but at what price? What value was success if the very people who helped her attain it were left in the shadows? That evening, seated in her Manhattan office, Emma resolved to act. She couldn't merely talk about change, she had to actualize it. The corporate structure she had constructed revolved around hard numbers, strict margins, and relentless ambition. But what if there was a way to cultivate a successful business while prioritizing the workforce that made it all happen? What if true success was measured not just by profits, but by the well-being of her employees? The next morning, Emma arrived at her office early as the city still slumbered. She stood at her window, gazing out at the New York skyline, the same view she had seen every day, yet today it felt different. Today marked the beginning of her intention to make a change. She wouldn't continue along the same road she had walked for years, clouded by her ambition. She owed it to her employees, to John Miller, and to every individual who had poured their effort into her company. Her assistant Rachel knocked on the door and entered. "Miss Williams, the board meeting is set for 11 a.m. today. Are you prepared?" Emma nodded, her mind buzzing with the necessary steps to take. "Yes, but first, I need you to do something for me, Rachel," she said calmly, yet resolutely. "I want you to gather data on our employees. How many work double shifts? How many have children? How many are facing financial challenges? I need to know the truth about our workforce." Rachel raised an eyebrow, surprised. "Are you certain about this, Miss Williams?" "I'm certain," Emma responded firmly. "We've been operating under the misconception that our employees are merely numbers, but they're not. They are human beings, and we've neglected their needs for far too long. It's time for that to change." As Rachel began to compile the information, Emma spent the morning reflecting on her conversation with John, recalling the way he had greeted her when they first met. how he had always upheld a respectful demeanor. Yet despite his dedication, he had been denied the opportunities he deserved. Emma recognized that she had failed him, and she was not going to allow that to occur again. At 11 a.m., Emma sat down with the board of directors in the sleek conference room of her Manhattan office. The room was filled with serious expressions, each eager to discuss the company's next steps. David Thompson, one of the senior investors, looked at her expectantly. "Emma, we've been reviewing the quarterly reports and the numbers are solid. What's on your mind today?" Taking a deep breath, Emma focused on what she was about to articulate. For the first time in years, she was ready to express her truth. "We've been so concentrated on financial success that we've neglected the most crucial element of our company, our employees. I've learned that many of them are struggling, working long hours and making sacrifices for their families. I want us to shift our approach." The room fell silent. David Thompson raised an eyebrow, evidently skeptical. "What do you mean by changing our approach? This company has prospered by emphasizing efficiency and productivity." "I recognize that," Emma replied, her voice steady. "But we can't continue to push people to their limits without considering their well-being. We need to implement fair wages, childcare benefits, and a support system for those in need. We must invest in our people, not just our profits." The board members exchanged uncertain glances, but Emma persisted. "I've already spoken with various employees, including John Miller, and I've witnessed the reality they face. They deserve better, and we're going to ensure they receive it." After a prolonged silence, David Thompson finally spoke. "You're proposing a fundamental shift in our entire business model. It's a huge risk. But I suppose you're correct. We can't keep overlooking the human side of this company." The meeting progressed for another hour as Emma laid out her vision for the company's future. She proposed raising wages for all employees, providing childcare and healthcare benefits, and establishing an emergency fund to assist those encountering financial hardships. It was an ambitious plan that would cost the company in the short term, but Emma was ready to make the sacrifice. By the end of the meeting, the board had agreed to her proposal, albeit with hesitation. Emma understood that implementing change wouldn't be simple. Challenges and resistance lay ahead, but for the first time in years, she felt secure in knowing she was doing the right thing. The following day, Emma called a company-wide meeting at the New York headquarters. Employees gathered in the large auditorium, buzzing with curiosity. Emma stood at the front, her heart racing with nervous excitement. She had never addressed the entire company before like this. "Good morning, everyone," she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I'm sure you're all wondering why we've convened this meeting. And while some of you may feel apprehensive regarding what I'm about to convey, I need you to know that this is the most important message I've ever delivered." She paused, collecting her thoughts before continuing. "I've realized I've failed you. For years, I have fixated on the success of the company while overlooking your struggles, your dedication, and the sacrifices you've made. For that, I am truly sorry." The room fell silent, and for a moment Emma worried that they might not believe her. Then, she caught glimpses of the employees' faces, some uncertain, others hopeful. She pressed on. "We're going to change things. We will ensure that everyone here has the support they need to thrive. We're raising wages, providing childcare benefits, and creating a fund for those in need. I know this won't be easy, but I promise you, we're in this together. We are a team, and it's time we start acting like one." The employees remained in stunned silence for a brief moment before a slow round of applause began to fill the room. At first, it was tentative, but as the realization dawned, the applause intensified. Emma felt a weight lift from her shoulders, confirming that this was indeed the right choice. As the meeting drew to a close, John Miller approached her, gratitude evident in his eyes. "Thank you, Miss Williams," he said, his voice quivering. "You've given me hope." Emma smiled, feeling a sense of pride she had never known before. "Thank you, John. You've shown me what truly matters, and now it's my turn to prove to you that I'm listening." Thus, Emma Williams discovered her purpose, not merely as a businesswoman, but as a leader who grasped the genuine essence of success. She learned that success wasn't just about profits. It was about the people you served, the lives you touched, and the change you instigated in the world. But the question persists. Will Emma Williams manage to sustain this change, or will the pressures of the business world pull her back into her old habits? What are your thoughts? Share your opinions in the comments and stay tuned for what unfolds next in this extraordinary journey. Thank you for watching. We genuinely appreciate your time spent on this story. Your support means everything to us. We hope it has inspired you to contemplate the real meaning of success and fairness. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that you'll never miss a story from us. Stay tuned for more heartwarming and thought-provoking content. Thank you once more, and we'll see you in the next one.